Beijing's repression on U.S. soil a threat to security. State Department. China's communist regime is extending its long arm of repression into the United States, a phenomenon that is extremely dangerous to Americans and poses serious implications for U.S. national security, a State Department official has warned. At an event hosted by the International Republican Institute on October 9th, Daphne Rand, the newly confirmed Assistant Secretary of State for Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor, said Americans should be aware of China's growing efforts to suppress dissenting voices on American soil. The PRC has pioneered, and others have followed, a practice of transnational repression, Rand said, using an acronym for Communist China's official name, the People's Republic of China. Not only do they go after dissidents and political oppositionists and civil society and journalists and bloggers within the PRC, but now are emboldened to go after dissidents and Chinese nationals and maybe those who have been exiled or fled. This is extremely dangerous to the American taxpayer. This means that the United States is fair game for the PRC and others, she added. The Chinese Communist Party is known for using physical and digital threats and intimidation, coercion by proxy, technical espionage, and unexplained disappearances to carry out repression outside of its borders, the State Department said in a report published in April. Effective action. Washington-based advocacy group Hong Kong Democracy Council applauded Rand for speaking out against the CCP's transnational repression. There's substantial commitment in the U.S. government to countering CCP, but effective action must follow the rhetoric more consistently, the group wrote in a post on the social media platform X on October 10th. As an example of the CCP's repression in the United States, HKDC pointed to its recent report on attacks against peaceful protesters during CCP leader Xi Jinping's visit to San Francisco in November last year. The group said it had found little to no effective U.S. government response so far to their report, even though the attacks occurred in broad daylight, while President Joe Biden and Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo were also present at the time. The report, written by HKDC and Students for a Free Tibet, used open-source research and facial recognition technology and found that 12 leaders of CCP-influenced groups participated in the attacks in San Francisco during Xi's visit. HKDC and SFT offered several recommendations to the U.S. government in their report, including asking Congress to pass legislation related to combating transnational repression and urging the Department of Justice to investigate China's United Front groups. On September 25th, the House advanced the Bipartisan Shield Against CCP Act after a voice vote by the Homeland Security Committee. The House is expected to pass the bill when it reconvenes after the November elections, according to a press release from the office of Representative Tom Suozzi, who co-led the legislation with Representative Dale Strong. The threats to our homeland from the Chinese Communist Party should deeply concern every American. These threats should not be tolerated and cannot go unchecked, said Suozzi, co-chair of the Congressional Uyghur Caucus. In a statement on September 26th, the legislation would require the Department of Homeland Security to establish a working group to access, identify, and counter homeland security threats associated with the CCP. According to the language of the bill, the threats would include malign influence operations and transnational repression targeting United States persons, threats to U.S. critical infrastructure, and exploitation of vulnerabilities in the United States export control regime. EU and Japan. The European Parliament also addressed the CCP's transnational repression, as well as unjustly imprisoned Uyghurs in China, when it passed a resolution on October 10th. The resolution urged Beijing to immediately and unconditionally release Ilham Tohti and Gulshan Abbas, as well as those arbitrarily detained in China, and close down all internment camps in China's far western region of Xinjiang. It also called on EU member states to address the transnational repression of Chinese dissidents and Uyghurs on their territory and prosecute individuals responsible. Rushan Abbas, executive director of Campaign for Uyghurs and Gulshan Abbas's sister, issued a statement saying the resolution marks an important milestone. However, our struggle is far from over. The member states must unite to ensure accountability for the PRC's crimes and end the suffering of the Uyghur people, Rushan Abbas added.